Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is an educational channel, and this is a relatively new feature. I believe this is number 15 of the Q-tip of the spear. And it's a recap of the last 24 hours of the info war. Um, Not necessarily a recap, just my take on various things of my choosing, and just a short little thing here. Um, Now, I, I've been red pilled since the about 1990. It's been a long time. Um, Being alone for the vast majority of that time, just with my own ideas about things. Found out that there was actually a community of people um, about 10 years ago that were inkling to some of these ideas. The more evil aspects of the satanic ritual abuse and such like. And sometimes I feel like with this movement, um, I'm kind of like uh, the older brother or the neighbor down the street who's 2 years older. And, I'm the guy who's like, Johnny, uh, that thing about Santa Claus, it's not real. Santa Claus is fake. And Johnny's just ignores me and goes on with his day. You know, Later on, Santa Claus is not real. Um, don't worry about being naughty or nice. For the reason that you're going to get some present. Those are coming from your parents. That's where you're getting those gifts, and there's no chimney. There's nothing like that. Um, and eventually, Johnny comes around and starts asking me about it. And you know, Inevitably, within a short amount of time, Johnny's figured it out on his own, or with my help, or whatever. And it's like you're right. You know, I should have I should have known, but how dumb of me. And you're just like, no, you're not dumb. It's just a rite of passage. You just go through it. Everybody believed in it at one point. But at a certain age, you know, you you grow out of it. And because there's no evidence for it. There's just these stories that you're being told, and you're being told these stories because you're a child, and th- they're trying to get you to be nice. And they want to they learned the myth themselves back in the day, and they went through it, and it's a tradition. Well, um, the exact parallel situation occurs here in this freedom movement with uh, with Christianity. Christianity is exactly analogous to believing in Santa Claus, um, except that there is actually more evidence for Santa Claus than there is for Christianity. Um, because there is zero evidence for Christianity other than what's in the Bible, and other than what a bunch of Roman uh, emperor adjacent people say. People who either are Roman emperors or are in the court of the Roman emperors. Because that's what the New Testament is. It's a psychological operation against the Jews, especially the zealous, the zealous Jews. The Romans actually ran a number of psychological operations. They were trying to wipe out Judaism, really. And they ran the Gospels, the New Testament. Um, it started with the Gospels. They wrote the epistles and the later stuff in uh, later uh, later time period. But in the earlier time period, say 75 to 95 AD, they wrote the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And they wrote it really to mellow out the Jews who had been revolting constantly for over 100 years, culminating in this war that ended finally in 73 AD with the destruction of Jerusalem and then eventually the destruction of Masada. And they they knew the Jews were going to be coming back, and so they created this psychological operation, created these gospels um, to kind of snuff out the the rebellious spirit of the Jews, because the Jews were waiting on a Messiah who was a military commander to help them overthrow the Romans. So the Romans instead proposed a Messiah who was a prince of peace and believed in rendering unto Caesar and turning the other cheek and so on. And also, crapping on the Jewish traditions and rituals such as the sacrifice and the Sabbath and the kosher food laws. That's especially in Paul um, and the Pauline epistles. Um, but they also ran a parallel op against the Pharisaic Jews, the Pharisees, and that was what was called rabbinical Judaism, and it had an absolutely parallel story um, with the Christian psyop. It was through Josephus, and with the Pharisaic rabbinical psyop, it was through Yohanan Ben Zakkai. And but the stories were almost identical, and the results were the same. The the Pharisaic Jews were basically, after the war, they were granted a plot of land where they could set up a college or a campus for the endless study of the Jewish scriptures, as long as it was kind of on this metaphysical, philosophical level and didn't come down to anything political. So that they basically gave the Pharisaic Jews the free rein to operate um, as long as they just stayed away from anything political. And it was a similar thing with Christianity. But other than other than Romans commenting on the existence of Jesus, corroborating his existence because it was a psychological operation, so naturally they would corroborate that. There isn't any evidence, and that's why truthers should not believe that. Um, I think the vast majority of truthers think that Christianity is on a much more firm ground than it really is on. It's on nothing. It's on quicksand, the quicksand of the New Testament. The New Testament is the only thing that is providing any evidence for it. That's circular reasoning. Um, and so there actually is more evidence for Santa Claus's existence, because at least with Santa Claus, there's a data point. The weatherman the night before Christmas tells you that he spotted Santa on his radar, leaving the North Pole on his way to deliver toys. So that there at least is, at least it's false evidence, but there is some one point of evidence at least for the existence of Santa. But it is a rite of passage, and it's something that we have to move through. just like we've moved through the age of Pisces and we're into the age of Aquarius. The fish is over, and this this has got to be over. We're not moving into any type of golden age, not with the belief in Christianity. I think we need to back up a half a step and go on the common denominator of deism, just like many of the American patriot founders of this country believed in deism. One God, but that God does not write books. It's a God that reveals itself through nature and through the laws of physics and math. And those things can be studied and reflected upon through our higher intelligences, and we can come to know God in a certain way through those avenues, not through books. That's a recipe for exactly what it is, a recipe for psychological operations at best. So, I hate to be your big brother, but somebody's got to tell you before this gets too late. We're going to win this war, but we're going to march forward into an age that we're not ready for. And it's going to be more of the same unless we grow up and move on to the next level. We got to get out of maybe Santa Claus is for the kindergartners, Christianity is for the elementary school, um, you know, spiritual seekers. We got to get into middle school and high school and beyond at this point. Um, so those are my comments about the Infowar for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Q tip of the spear. And that's the other thing that I'm saying is that Q must know this, and the boss must also know this. And so they're treating you like children, which is what you deserve to be treated like. I'm treating you like children until you wake up to this. Um, so have a great day. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.